Welcome to HIVE Nurse Inside the Hive, where we are helping implement viable ecosystems. And beyond that, we're really just getting real about what the nursing profession is going through today. I'm Ashley Kellish.
And I'm Elizabeth Walters. I'm a practicing nurse practitioner, and I work with Ashley on implementing viable ecosystems.
That's right. And we've spent the last 15 years together in a variety of different places, different jobs, different roles, different lives that we have led that got us here today. And the Hive is really a place where we have formed with our heart of hearts to come together so that nurses everywhere can have access to the evidence, to the leadership development, to the professional development that it takes to really survive in today's nursing profession,
Yes.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, totally. And we do that in an online community, so you don't have to leave your house.
Yes, because some of us
Are
don't like
introverts.
to leave our house more than others who like to get out there all the time. But in reality, it really is trying to bring this to everybody. And what's the best way to do that is through our online tools. So that's where the Hive platform sits. We have a website, www.hivenurse.com, as well as a variety of social media handles, which I will not pretend to know anything about. So I'll let Elizabeth talk about those.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, at HIVE Nurse.
It's fantastic. And we're really going to spend a lot of time digging through different topics, but always trying to make sure that we bring you the evidence. And some may call us nerds.
Yes, I like to refer to us as nerdy nurses.
But we love the evidence because there's a lot out there that gives us the secrets and the tools to what we can do differently on our teams and in our units and just what's worked out there. And so we want to bring that to you. We want to put it at your fingertips as we work through some really challenging subjects.
Yeah, and we also want to use storytelling, right? We want to tell our stories and other nurses' stories on this podcast and really delve into how does the evidence inform the story, or how does the story back the evidence?
Yes, and storytelling is an art. And so you will hear a lot of what's out there in the literature and then what our stories have to say to do it. So why don't you say we kick something off today about a really difficult topic?
How difficult?
The most of all, what everyone is talking about in today's environment.
Does
burnout.
it have, I was going to say, does it have anything to do with all the nurses who are leaving in mass exodus?
Yes. Do you know we have over 1 million nurses sitting at home right now with RNs behind their names, but they don't want to be at the bedside. They don't want to be working because they're burnt out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that. Been there, done that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. So let's get into that nerdy nurses,
Yes,
right? Let's talk about some facts, right? So a recent meta-analysis that was just published of almost 300,000 nurses across 32 different countries. So this is not just a U.S. problem. I think we hear about that all the time, like, oh, the nurses that are burned out in the United States. But this is across the world, right? And it found that burnout is directly tied to worsening outcomes, like things like infections, falls, medication errors, and missed care. Patient satisfaction also goes down, and nurses themselves rate their quality of the care that they're providing as lower. And this is not new, right? These patterns have persisted for decades.
Yeah, it's so true. And you know what's interesting? You brought up the care factors that were measured against, right? Like falls, infection rates. That's our central line infections, our infections from urinary catheters, all these things. I just read this really interesting blog from someone on LinkedIn, and they talked about the blame game that goes on too in today's environment. So when falls are up or when infections are up, it goes right to the shoulders of the nurses that are providing the care,
Totally.
Which leads to that sense of burnout, right? And that sense of feeling shame.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally the worst. Like if you've been in one of those units that had 1,000 CLABSI-free days, and then
the one happens.
You get the one that happens. It is such a morale booster.
It might have been inevitable too, right? At that point, it might have been a situation that you could not avoid in a particular patient. It's so challenging.
Yeah.
I will say too, there was a 2025 umbrella review, to bring my bit of nerdiness here, and it highlighted that 1/3 of our nurses are feeling exhausted. A quarter of them feel depersonalized in the workplace. They don't even feel like humans. And 1/3 of them feel like their personal accomplishments are not even relevant to the work that they're doing. So it's a really drab workplace to be a part of today.
Yeah, it totally is. And another nerdy nurse fact that stuck out to me was that ICU nurses, which we are both ICU nurses, report the highest rates of low accomplishment at almost 46%.
And yet they're the most skilled nurses. I mean, everyone has skill sets, but when you look at the ICU, the technical capabilities out there are huge.
Yeah, you got to have a really big brain to work in ICU, for
absolutely.
Sure. And oncology nurses also have the highest rates of depersonalization.
Wow.
At 42% of oncology nurses are not feeling human at work.
And interesting because they're often with those families for so long and caring for them. You would think that they would get a lot of gratification out of that, not the opposite.
Yeah. And I mean, it tells us something, right? It tells us that this isn't about individual failure, right? These were worldwide studies. It's about the system. The system is broken and the system isn't working. And that's what's causing this burnout.
It's interesting. So I've been working with a nurse. She's brand new. She's been in nursing for about less than a year. And she used to be
baby.
Yes, she is. She's a phenomenal person, and she used to be a college athlete. So she understands how a team functions, right? And functions well to win. She even talks about winning when her team was like a skeleton crew and they still won in this college team. So she gets it. And she said something to me that stuck with me. She said, I chose nursing because everyone sold it to me that it was a team sport and I was going to get to go from one team to another and just do amazing work. She said, I've never felt more alone in my life.
Oh, my goodness.
And she's about 8 months in to being a nurse.
That's so sad.
And she's already struggling. So if our newest people are getting out there and feeling the brunt of these broken systems, are we ever going to recover from this profession?
Yeah. Why don't you tell us about what it was like when you entered nursing?
Well, I have to say, to be honest with you, 20 years ago, I actually had a pretty good welcome into the nursing profession.
These are the rainbows. It
started early for me. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But the rainbows and butterflies. I was in a small ICU. It was in an urban setting. It was specialty care ICU. And actually, I worked with a lot of travel nurses at that time. I know that's been a debated topic going on. But some of my best nursing colleagues and who I learned from the most were actually travel nurses. I'll never forget one. I was caring for my very first post-op patient by myself off orientation. She handed the patient off to me on night shift, and she had written out all my drip calculations and stuck them to the back of a pump so that I wouldn't mess up when I first was starting. I'll never forget it. I'll also never forget that maybe
she was
2 years.
Worried you couldn't do math.
Well, she was worried about me for other reasons, but I did fine, and that was my extra help.
And you could do math.
I could do math.
Okay, good.
But the pump came back 2 years later with that still taped to the back of it, so I did worry a little bit about our environmental services back then. But truly, when I look back, I actually landed in an amazing team. I was one of 3 new graduate nurses. I felt so supported. I had visible leadership. I had an educator who was rounding on us all the time. I was given really great patient cases to take care of and assignments. And I learned so much. Even though some of it was challenging, I learned so much in those early days.
Yeah. I had a similar new grad experience. So back in the early days when we were brand new nurses, nurse residency programs were not a thing.
Yeah, they
right?
weren't common.
There wasn't, I think Magnet was just coming out of its infancy from the American Nurses Credentialing Center. And I was really lucky. I was on a team of 8 or 9 brand new nurses that were hired in a neonatal intensive care unit. So we didn't have that small little group of camaraderie that you experienced, but we had each other, right? We had the 8 of us, and we still connect, and we still,
even today,
today, we still connect.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We're definitely face place friends.
Oh yeah, the face place.
Yeah,
the market space, whatever it is. No, but isn't that interesting that we did what we reflect back on, and what we consider an amazing part to our career was this connection that we had. And I don't know, maybe if we want to bring it up, but the COVID pandemic, what that did to our profession, I don't know that we'll know for many years, but I do know we've lost a lot of connection, and we've lost a lot of visible leadership and a lot of transparency. And we've put in a lot of layers and barriers that are just disconnecting us from our patient care.
Yeah, totally. As a nurse practitioner during COVID, I felt especially slighted because I had a whole group of patients that COVID was affecting. I had a whole group of patients who were kicked out of school and didn't have their social environment. And so they were struggling mentally. And I could easily see them through telehealth. And instead, our healthcare institution thought it was a better idea to have nurse practitioners and physician assistants or advanced practice providers go into the medical ICU and scribe for the resident physicians.
Wow.
And I was like, no, I have real things that I have to take care of. Yes. I have real patients who are at home that this is affecting. So that definitely led to some burnout of not being able to practice that's at the top of my license and not being able to care for my patients the best way that I saw fit, where the autonomy was taken away from me.
Yes. And, you're describing some of those core things that really do lead to burnout in our profession today. And I don't think anyone has the same answer, right? For you, that experience really went the wrong way. For me, it's working, day in and day out and just not seeing a change with the patients that I want to take care of or a change in the systems that I'm working with. I always feel like I'm pushing a rock uphill. It leads to burnout.
Yeah. So how do you know if you're burned out?
Well, according to the evidence,
nerdy nurses again.
There are some definitions that we can look to really define burnout. And I think some of the key things are around feeling exhausted and never rested, no matter how much you sleep.
Yeah.
Feeling cynical. Yes. I think a lot about cynicism.
I'm a very cynical person.
But when you are more cynical than usual in a way that is not helpful or healthy, that's a sign of burnout.
Yes, for sure.
And then if you're just not able to find the joy in the work that you're doing anymore, it's just gone and you feel like you're clocking in and clocking out. You're that depersonalized.
Yes.
Human.
You're just a nurse robot.
Yes. And you don't feel like, actually that newer nurse I talked about said she feels like nothing more than a task manager and a pill pusher. And this is only 8 months into her practice. On an oncology unit. But it aligns with the evidence, right? She's seeing and feeling exactly what we're finding when we read these articles.
Almost 3/4 of nurses are experiencing this.
Yes. And so those are really some of the key characteristics of burnout.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think it's important for nurses for us to name it, right? Like it's important to name it. That's the sort of first step in recognizing burnout is to be like, dude, I am burned out.
Yes.
I am facing these experiences. I am dehumanized, depersonalized.
Yes.
I'm showing up and I'm just barely getting by, just doing the task stuff that I have to do. I'm refilling the prescriptions. I'm checking the checky boxes and all those things.
Yes.
But, I think calling it what it is, right? Yeah. Not just being like, oh, this is something that is your problem, right? I think we get a lot of chat about in nursing about, oh, you just need to be more resilient, right? You just need to own this and you need to be more resilient, right?
Or do more with less. I often hear that a lot, especially in the leadership realm. It's, well, the nurses have to XYZ. Now the nurses have to empty the trash as well as I never forget when we were asked to also clean all the toys before we put them back in different rooms. And just, it always feels like when the burden is high, it falls on the shoulders of nursing. And I think this is where, as leaders today, it's important that we're learning how to call attention to it. And then as individuals at the bedside, like you're saying, name it, recognize it, and find your support system to help you get through this.
Let me tell you a story about being burned out. So I was working in a neonatal intensive care unit, not the one I started as a new grad in. And I had a terrible shift. I had 3 babies on bubble CPAP, which means that they have little prongs in their nose and it's always coming out and they're start having complications related to that.
Yes.
And so I had 3 patients and I just walked in a triangle all day long, putting the bubble CPAP back in their noses, feeding them, getting everything situated for them. At the end of the shift, I had to move 2 of the patients to other parts of the unit. And I had only been there for like 3 weeks. I had 2 whole shifts of orientation. So I was brand new. I didn't even know where they wanted me to take these babies. So I asked the charge nurse for help and the charge nurse basically refused to help me. The charge nurse was basically like, you need to go ahead and do that. I'd also not charted anything all day because I had been keeping my handy dandy paper towel and like her.
Writing it down.
I had not charted anything all day. And so here I am trying to put everything in the computer from 3 babies for an entire 12 plus 13 hour shift. And I had 2 nurses who did not have assignments that were from the night shift come up to me and say, "Aren't you going to clean your bed spaces?" And I was like,
wow.
"What?" And they were like, "Yeah, we clean the bed spaces here when you move a patient." And I was like, "Are you for real? I got to clean the bed spaces?" Wow. I haven't charted a thing. It's already 9 p.m. Wow. And I still haven't charted anything. And you guys don't have any patients right now. Could you help me out?
Right.
Could you clean the bed spaces?
Did they help
like,
you?
No.
Wow.
They stood and watched me clean the bed spaces. It was the worst bullying
hazing.
Situation.
It's like nurse hazing.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
No, these are the things that are leading to these really challenging environments. And I think, the Hive was formed really out of a lot of burnout for both of us and trying to find a productive way to get through it. And I think when we work with teams in different environments, that we are really helping to change how they think, how they function, how they act. We're trying to help prevent burnout for our teams that are currently working now at the bedside and beyond. Don't you think?
I definitely think that. I think that a lot of this was born out of burnout, right? Like we were both experiencing burnout in our respective areas that we had been working in. And I think that, we came together and we were like, this has got to be different. We got to do something different. We have to help. We don't want to stop being nurses. And I think that there were times where we were sort of contemplating that, like, how do we move out of this career path, right? Like maybe I could just go, make a donut cart.
Right. But you have so much to offer the profession, and so do I.
Yes.
And that's really what the Hive is all about, is how can we take what's hard out there and shape our future and come together as a hive, really just like honeybees do. They come together and they make a product of honey, and we're coming together and we're going to make a better profession for nursing because we all deserve it.
Yeah. And burnout isn't your fault. It's a system problem.
And one day at a time, we can help to build viable ecosystems that truly help change the systems that we work in. So thank you for listening to HIVE Nurse, where we help implement viable ecosystems. I'm excited that you can find us on our website at www.hivenurse.com.
Yeah, and you can follow us on all the socials, which is at HIVE Nurse.
And we're excited to hear more comments from you. You can subscribe below and we can hear all your feedback so we know what to bring to you, what's missing, and maybe have some of you on the show with us.
Yeah,
thanks for listening.
We'd love to host you.